Reports have came out that the Toronto Maple Leafs are still looking to acquire one of Calgary's defensemen. I'll get into this and another defenseman the Leafs need to take a look at. I'll get into that later on in this episode, but before I start, to the thousands of you that are watching that aren't subscribed, if you enjoy this daily NHL and Leafs content, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button, but I'll get right into the first topic, which is Chirs Tanev. Now, before I get into Chirs Tanev, I will say we did lose out on the Zadorov sweepstake. Zadorov did get acquired by the Vancouver Canucks for a third and a fifth round pick. Now, when this news did come out, I know a lot of fans, including myself, was a little shocked that Vancouver got this guy for such a cheap price while Toronto was still in on the sweepstake. But reports did come out from Elliot Freeman saying, from what I understand, the issue here was that the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Flames could not agree on what it would cost for Calgary to keep up to 50% salary retained on both players. He said the two sides couldn't figure out the compensation. In addition, just the compensation for both players. So, Toronto did ultimately lose out on Zadorov. They were actively pursuing both Zadorov and Tanev in a trade, but it came down to Vancouver had the cap space and Toronto did not. I believe if you look at cap friendly at this current moment, they have roughly $2.9 million in cap space. This is with John Klingberg on LTIR. And right now, they do have a couple guys called up Legason, Benoit, McMahon. There's a couple guys up on the roster right now that can ultimately be sent down to expand this cap by a bit more. But when you are looking at both guys of Zadorov and Tanev, this was over $7 million that would have been coming back if both guys weren't retained at 50%. And it was just something the Leafs could not do without maybe throwing in too much of the future, too many draft picks. Do I think they should have looked at this and kept pushing? Yes. But I think what happened was Vancouver came along, made the Beauvillier trade, freed up that $3.9 million in cap space and enough to acquire Zadorov. But let's get into who I wanted to talk about, which was Chirs Tanev. Chirs Tanev was a guy that reports have came out, Elliot Freeman, Chris Johnson, that the Leafs are still looking to acquire. Now, if you wanted to pause and have a quick look at this, you can as well, but I'll go over it a little briefly. Chirs Tanev is a guy that's, I believe, 6'2", 6'3", right-handed defenseman from Ontario. He spent a lot of his time with Vancouver, last 4 years with Calgary. His career high in points is 28 points. He's not known as an offensive defenseman, but this guy is going to be your stereotypical shutdown defenseman, stay at home, break the plays up, and ultimately, this guy is a playoff performer. This is a guy that's going to go out, put his body on the line. I wish I had the clip of him blocking a shot with his face, and this is just 20 games into the season he's doing stuff like this. But Chirs Tanev, as I was saying, he's going to block shots. You've seen he had seasons with 170, 166, 159, and he still does throw a decent amount of hits. You see 52, 51, and so on. So when you do look at a guy like Chirs Tanev, this is a guy that could come in my opinion, slot straight into the top pairing with a guy like Morgan Rielly. In my opinion, and from a lot of analytics and what people are saying as well, this is Morgan Rielly's best season as a whole. We've seen him go off for, I believe it was 75 points in a season, but right now this is the best two-way version of Morgan Rielly we have ever seen, and I think it kind of built from last year's second round exit against the Florida Panthers, where we've seen him dominate against Tampa, straight into the series with Florida. Now, with Chirs Tanev, his cap hit is $4.5 million. This is the last year of his deal, so this could be a pure rental situation, or this could be something that Toronto does to maybe bring in a guy like Tanev and ultimately re-sign him on a deal, since this is a hometown team for him, and this is a guy that knows how to win. So when you do look at this package, if you did want to do half retain for a guy like Tanev, this is going to be just over $2 million coming back on the books. So with the Leafs having the 2.9 with Klingberg, Liljegren, a couple guys like this still on LTIR, you can make this work at half retained. Obviously, we can't take that full 4.5, and it kind of gets in a bit of a worrying situation because of the no Klingberg update yet either, because right now Klingberg is getting paid $4 million. He is on LTIR, but no one knows if this is a situation that he's out for maybe the next week, 2 weeks, maybe 3, or if this is another situation where we see him go on LTIR for the entire season because he has season ending surgery. So I think the big thing here, and I don't expect a trade to happen until the Leafs media or Bradshaw Living or whoever it is comes out and says exactly what Klingberg's out with and how long it will be. I can't see a trade happening until this moment. Now, if he does come back and we don't have as much cap space to work with, there's another face that I think that the Leafs need to look in on, and that guy is Sean Walker. Sean Walker is currently playing with the Philadelphia Flyers, and a recent article did come out saying, I can tell you that they are interested and eager in becoming a wheeler and dealer. This was per Darren Dreger. He said, but that's not because they're trying to sell off assets here. It's because they want to build a stronger foundation for the future. They are willing to listen on every position, not every player, but every position, and they feel like they have the assets to move. So when you look at Sean Walker, a lot of people might be saying, who is this guy? He plays with the Flyers. How good could he be? The first thing you will notice when you do look up his name, he is 5'11". This is going to scare a lot of fans, but this is where you don't need to be worried. Sean Walker, who was known for his time with the Kings, he was thrown in on the Provorov trade when it was a three-way trade between the Flyers, Columbus, and with the LA Kings. When you do look at Sean Walker, he has 11 points in 24 games, currently 37 blocks, 29 hits. Last season, he had 104 blocks with 77 hits. And if you just kind of work your way back and look at these stats, Sean Walker is a lot more physical than a guy that is 5'11 should be. So when you do look at Sean Walker, as I said, his cap hit right now is at $2.6 million. This is slowly getting smaller as the season goes on, as the cap hit isn't going to be paid out in full. But when you look at this guy, this is a cheaper option that you could bring in instead of a guy like Chirs Tanev. Do I think this should be the only guy you bring in and ignore Chirs Tanev? No. But we've seen from recent reports that the Leafs were looking to add a guy like Zadorov and Tanev. So why not go for a guy like Tanev still and bring in another right-handed shot like Sean Walker? Sean Walker is currently playing on the second power play. This might have changed as I'm recording this video, but he was playing on the second power play unit, and he is playing penalty kill. I believe he has 2 shorthanded goals on the season. As I said, he's a right-handed defenseman, and you could bring in Chirs Tanev, a guy like Sean Walker, and revamp this right side. You could maybe go Chirs Tanev with Morgan Rielly, slide Brody down into the second pairing, put him with a guy like Sean Walker, who Walker can bring some offense and some defense, and Brody can still continue his defense. And then you could run a third pairing of McCabe, Lagesson, Benoit, and then a guy like Timothy Liljegren once he does return. Now, what's the value of these guys? I wouldn't be able to tell you. I thought Zadorov had a bit more value than what he went for. Obviously, Vancouver wanted to get off this, get him off the team, and just kind of move on, which they ultimately did. So this might be the situation we see with Tanev. I know the Flyers are in no rush, but I think Sean Walker on the last year of his deal, I think he's going to be a piece that's being moved. He's from Ontario as well. Why not bring him home, bolster the right side, make a deeper run, and just ultimately get to the Stanley Cup Finals and bring the cup home to not only Toronto, but Canada. I think that's every fan base can agree, other than American fan base, that we want to see the cup in Canada. But we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today comes from Jeff. He says, Flames really need a stay-at-home defenseman, literally. And I agree. Right now it is a little rough for Flames fans. You're seeing a situation of Zadorov publicly asking for a trade. Tanev is looking like he will be moved. And it seems like they want to do a sign and trade with Noah Hanifin as well. So there's so much happening in Calgary. They still do have a good roster. I don't think this will be a situation where it's a total rebuild. I think there's going to be a retool, kind of figure things out this offseason, and then make a push for the playoffs once again, which they're currently doing right now amid all what's happening. So what's your guys' thought? Do you think the guy like Zadorov was the guy we needed and Bradshaw Living kind of messed up on this? Or do you think getting Tanev and Walker is the perfect pieces? Or do you think they need to maybe look somewhere else, like Adam Peke from Columbus, who is a bigger defenseman that can still lay the body and hit and is good defensively? Let us know down in the comments. And while you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, and let us know where you're from. It's awesome to see where people are from. I know I've said this a lot in videos, but it's just interesting to see so many people from all around the world. I know there's people from the States, Canada, a lot of European, Southeast Asia. We have so many people watching these videos that it's just awesome to hear where you guys are from. So let us know that in the comments as well. But other than that, take care.